Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Thunder, and this is Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And this is going to be part two of a series we started last week, and it's on the leadership topic. And it's about fear in association with leadership. Are you afraid to lead? So we are taking a look at a video, and we made it through the first 5 points. We will finish it out as a 10-point video. And so really looking forward to keeping this discussion going on the very important leadership topic. And yes, leadership tends to be everybody talking about leadership and developing leaders and how to be a better leader and leadership styles and everything else. But really, what makes a great leader? Really, what makes a great leader? And so we'll be talking on all kinds of topics. You know how it goes with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Getting Ish Done. You know what's happening. Let's go.
Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Unapologetically men-centered content here. Productivity-oriented, leadership, level up, getting ish done, centering on black men and their upward mobility, getting the bag, pursuing success, all of that good stuff. That's what we about.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Ready to go?
And yeah, so you're still in Accra, Ghana.
Yep. I'll be out of here at the end of the month.
Okay.
It was a long one, but hey.
You're going back to Cali?
Yes. Cali got gunplay, models on the runway, sing Biggie Biggie give me one more chance, all that stuff, yeah. Heading back to Cali on the 30th, landing on the 31st. Yeah, it's been a while. And
yeah, so when did you leave? When did you leave Cali?
I left Cali in December.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's it has been a long trip. I did something similar in 21, like around the same time too, like December.
Yeah. I remember that we did some shows sort of surrounding that. And,
correct.
That was a sort of experiment in, how is this going to work? But we made it happen.
Yes, indeed, we made it happen.
Yeah.
So I'll be back with my nice studio, nice camera. Well, better studio, better camera, better internet, and all that.
Right. No more African struggle streaming?
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's mostly my fault here. Just that I have a perfect room where everything works. But
No. I prefer the dusty African. No. I prefer the dusty African.
We'll stick with that narrative then. Okay.
Yeah, yes. I much prefer that. Oh man. Yeah, so it'll be cool to get back. And so what is that, how do you how do you so how are you oriented in association with being gone for long periods of time? I'm not very good at that.
Okay. Now there are different aspects that one would have to take care of. I'm not sure exactly the area that what you would mean.
Well, no, I mean, just like how do you? Well, this seems to be. I mean, it's a pretty normal thing. It seems like it's a pretty common thing for you to be gone for a couple months. And I think, although I've done,
at least lately,
yeah, I mean, although I've done, some touring and things, right? I enjoyed, the time on the bandstand, but I get homesick.
Yeah, I've heard you mention that a couple of times.
Yeah.
That tends not to be an issue for me. It's been for the longest with things and places and people. I tend not to mind too much, not the lack of proximity to these things for extended periods of time. And now I do like things to be organized and convenient and all that kind of stuff. So if I'm organized and convenient wherever I am, then it tends to work. But I can be quite adaptive in terms of, okay, well, if I have to sit down in a small corner and only have a laptop screen to look at and all that I could make that work too. But if things are organized and I can do what I need to do, then I don't mind. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's interesting. So part of my issue is the raw amount of stuff that I need to do a bunch of the creative work that I do, right? The different instruments, the, you know, a setup to record. And like, I mean, I have mobile setups that I can, you know, I can deliver a high quality product no matter where I am. I've got a laptop computer, stuff like that. But still, you know, there's a limitation as to how many instruments I can take with me. And if, you know, I'm touring and I'm playing saxophone and flute or something like that, then I'm probably not going to have a bass and a guitar and a, you know, X, Y, and Z. You understand the issue. So that kind of becomes a drag. Although I am, you know, we've talked about this, we're both introverted. So it's not necessarily the people, although I miss my family. So, you know, and I miss my own bed and stuff like that. It's more the actual space and this sort of, there's a convenience of having everything set up the way I like. There's access to all of this stuff. And yes, I have a bunch of stuff in the cloud and I can access that stuff wherever I'm at. And I have ways that are portable. I mean, I can, you know, I could do it, but I just, I don't know. I like routine, and I like the surroundings to be like the same thing, and then go out for a moment and then come back to something that's the same. That's kind of my crutch, I guess.
Yeah, I completely feel you on that. You know, and that's why I said, you know, basically as long as I have a decent setup, um, which I do have over here, so that works. I like space, you know, like I like to have not just my own space, but I like things to be spacious, generally speaking, especially if there's anyone else around. Just like a lot of space. So if I have that, then I should be good. I moved about every other than the past couple of years, I've moved every 2 years since about the year 2000, right?
Yeah.
So every 2 years, I move. So I don't know whether that's particularly related, but it is in sort of way related in terms of changing up things. Not for, it's not like, oh, I just get bored or tired. I could be in the same spot for forever. I don't care. Just it's more for work, I guess is the shorthand to just
Upgrades.
say, yeah. Just you gotta go where you gotta go.
Yeah. I see that. And that's interesting because, so I guess since about 2004, I moved every year until about every year. Yeah, just about every year up until I bought the house that I'm living in now. Until we bought this house, and so that was I want to say that was like in 2010, something like that. So we've been in this house for or maybe it's more like 2012. So we've been here for a bit. But yeah, it's just interesting. I'm always interested in hearing folks sort of take on that. I think another advantage that you have is in your being gone for a long time is your family's with you, right?
Yeah.
See, that's a huge thing. If I could have my family with me, I think I would miss the house a lot less.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, I would say this though, even though my bed, our bed, is not necessarily the best bed, I jack my back up on every other bed. I mean, the bed could be like the freaking $10,000 mattress, and it'll jack my back up. I just never sleep well, and that's even when my wife's with me. So I don't know. So it's old guy problems, I guess. Um, all right. Well, I figure we can probably just go ahead and jump back in to part two of this video, and I thought we had a really, really great conversation first time around. So, folks, if you want to check out part one of this, go over to Ike's channel to check out part one. Really, really good conversation. If you like this conversation, this video breakdown, then certainly you'll enjoy that also. So I'll go ahead and start playing, and then you just tell me when you want me to stop.
Cool.
You're ready to lead at the next level because you're about building people. That's very, very hard to find. So this next one, it's a fear to lead. You know what it is? Deflecting blame. Rather than saying, you know what, this was on me. I screwed up here. This was our fault. No, it was that person's fault. It was this person's fault. You know what my favorite is? It's the equipment's fault. The equipment can't do nothing about it. It's the equipment's fault. So now what do I need to do? Call the equipment and chew out the equipment? Hey, Mr. Equipment, shame on you for what you did. I can't talk to the equipment. Someone has to take responsibility. None of us like to take the blame because it's not an exciting thing to say. But you know who takes responsibility and moves on? Leaders take responsibility and improve. Remember, none of us like it. And we've all been in a position where we didn't want to take it. And both you and I know that's not a sign of a leader. So if you don't do that, it's another sign you fear leading by not taking full responsibility. Next fear. This is an
Yeah, I guess we could stop right there. I like the fact that he mentioned that none of us like it. It's something that when I'm looking to other people to kind of explain to them my general kind of Zen attitude towards bending over and taking it. Yeah, nice visual there. I try to make sure that because typically people don't like to look bad in front of other people, right? That's a huge aspect of this whole kind of responsibility thing, right? I'm sure if it was just them alone, they're like, oh yeah, I burnt the eggs or I screwed up the deal or whatever, right? But when there's other people and then they have to say it in front of other people or it rubs them the wrong way. They don't want to. There's the shame and or guilt depending on what culture you're in. In the United States, probably more guilt. Over in the East, it's more of the shame thing. And so that's about other people. But in a context whereby, let's say, you're someone has pressure on them because everybody works for somebody, right? Whether it's your clients or your quote unquote boss, you're working for somebody. President of the United States works for somebody. They're working to get reelected. They're working to whatever it is. Whole point is there are other people around. So these other people are feeling some pressure, right? None of them wants to really take the responsibility. None of them feels happy to, generally speaking, to just pour it on you. But the things will get diffused and things move a whole lot smoother if you just take your part away from it. If you take the context of the boss is getting pressure because the deal got blown up, something went wrong. So they're getting pressure from above. So they come to you. They know that you don't like to take responsibility. So point being, the whole other people's stuff. The boss, if he's a decent human being, halfway decent human being, okay, they're not just there to just dump it all on you and then go ha ha. No, it's like you should know that, and it should then therefore be easier for you to say, hey, it's yeah, let me take it. And then one other quick thing is people always think that things should go correct. Like people are not okay with things going wrong for a particular period of time. Like even if you look at the stock market or if you look at the Tesla stock or any particular line, we also know this thing about success. It doesn't take a straight path. It goes up. It goes. We know how these things look. The path to success looks like the path of any particular stock or security bond, whatever that you can see. It's all jagged, right? And this is the same thing with any kind of endeavor. So on those down times, people don't want, people want to say, it's this or it's that or what. It's like, no, well, it was me. Yeah, fine, I'll take the responsibility. It's okay. Things are gonna be down sometimes. Okay, it's fine, right? And anyways, what do you what are your general thoughts on both what he said and then this aspect of, look, nobody likes it. No one is looking to just grind you down. Everybody knows that there are extraneous factors, and everybody knows that there's a share of this, that, and the other. Just take it, and things will move. Things will move on.
Yeah, one thing that you said guilt and shame. I think of it as more as a pride issue. It's like, it's almost like I don't want people to know that I have any faults. I want them to think that I'm, impervious, all powerful, all knowing, whatever. I think of it as that. So accepting the blame for something, accepting the fault, taking it on you, that means that you did something wrong, which then shows that you're fallible. And I honestly think there's a lot of folks that they just don't like to be shown to be wrong. And so it's I don't, the guilt thing, I suppose that almost seems to be giving them too much credit, because that seems to almost be for a good reason. Like I feel bad about it, and I don't, it seems to me to be more like I'm not going to take responsibility because I don't want you to know that it was my fault. But then I also like this idea that this thing you're talking about, how the beauty of just fessing up is people, anybody that understands anything at all will understand that extenuating situations and circumstances happen, and they just need to know that you're going to take responsibility for whatever happens. They don't expect you to be
big
perfect.
time. It's so, yes, I kind of set up a situation where everyone is normal and everyone is healthy. I'm continuing with that same situation 100%. They will respect you. This is the time when, this is what separates the men from the boys, right? Like, if you're able to, because when everything is good, everybody can pop champagne, everybody can say so, like, that doesn't really matter, right? But they can know that when things go bad, you're still standing there, you're standing strong, you're taking responsibility, and you're moving on. Because again, we all know the thing about fault versus responsibility, right? I used to give that Jeff Bezos analogy of, if Jeff Bezos hit you with a truck, okay, it's his fault, but it's your responsibility to do the physical therapy and the psychological therapy. Jeff Bezos, no matter how many millions he gives you, is not going to get on that treadmill for you to learn how to walk again. That's your responsibility. Responsibility has to do with the ability to make change, the ability to actually do something, right? And people want to play the fault game, like as though it was a court case, like gonna assign fault and the jury is gonna. It's like, no, that's 99% of the time you're not in court trying to do that kind of a thing. It's about, I'm here, I'm that, the buck stops here kind of stuff, where I am the guy, that I'm the fuse. I take away the all the static from the room, because it does diffuse things. People can relax when the boss is getting pressure and he comes to you and you're like, hey, yes, screwed up, and here's how we might do it, blah blah blah. He's relaxed. He knows that he can count on you. He feels a lot better about them moving forward.
Yeah. I just finished out on Netflix Last Kingdom. Last Kingdom, and it's basically the sort of struggle between the Christians and the Danes, and it sort of leads to the sort of Icelandic, what Icelandic is that? What I'm trying to say, the like the Netherlands, the
Scandinavian.
Thank you, the Scandinavian countries. Their sovereignty from Britain, from England. And it's interesting because there's a number of times when someone, Uhtred in particular, where he makes a miscalculation or something doesn't go the way that he had hoped it would go. And the first thing that he always does is he takes responsibility for it. He says, yes, I was wrong. I didn't think that they were going to do X, Y, and Z, but here's the way I think that we can take this as an advantage. Here's how we can proceed forward. And I think that a large degree of the reason why they still continued to follow him, although he obviously was not perfect. He made mistakes. Sometimes his judgment was not, was not infallible, whatever. But he always took responsibility, and then he always understood how to sort of pivot it into something that was positive. So, yeah, that's a sign of a great leader.
Yeah, and one last thing, and then I guess you can keep playing, is now if you are indeed in the position of leadership, because, I think in the first episode we kind of differentiated the whole idea of leadership versus, just being in a position of leadership, your position of authority and having to herd people around, all that kind of stuff. If you're in a position and you have the kind of personality that needs to sort out blame first, and I'm not blaming you for that, pun intended, but there is a kind of personality that wants to, first of all, sort out blame, because that's how they operate in the world. It's that extroverted feeling thing. It doesn't work well if you're the leader, if in a group. Even if that's part of your process, first of all, you got to do that, and then don't make that be go the other way, where it's like, okay, go complete. How do we fix it? What exactly went wrong? Or to the degree to which you're looking for blame, look for blame in perhaps the predictions that were made, as opposed to whom made the prediction, whom built the model that led us down this path. It's not about that. It's like, hey, okay, so we thought these three things, 2 or 3 of them we missed, and because those 2 were wrong, now we're in this place. We learned from that. How do we adjust now that we have more information? Don't do the whole let's point fingers around first, because it'll just leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth. People are not going to be ready to take the next steps. So if you have that kind of personality, you need to curb that urge to point fingers.
Yeah, I think that's important. And there might be some nuance there, because at some point there may be an opportunity to point out, deficiency in people's job. What am I saying? Their job performance. You can contextualize it that way, I guess. So at some point you can address that stuff, and at some point it probably would be important to address it. But as far as actually moving
up on the side,
say it again.
You could even do it immediately, but make sure it's not like a group thing.
Like right. No, never a group thing.
Never a good thing to be sorting out blame.
No. Never a group thing. It's never in public. It's always one-on-one. And because that's not gonna help anybody. All right, let's keep going.
Obvious one, I already talked about it earlier, fear of conflict. You need to have a very high-level conversation with somebody. You delayed for 1 day, you delayed for 2 days, you delayed for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Boom, we lost the client. There needs to be a high-level conversation of conflict with somebody. Client, they're not happy with this thing, they don't understand the product. Okay, I'm gonna call them. I'll call them tomorrow. I'll call them the next day, they cancel. You have an issue with a partner, with a vendor. You have to have a conversation with somebody that keeps doing the same thing over and over again. Expenses, costs, late, not hitting their deadline, not finishing their project, making comments at work that you've told them to stop doing that. Any of this stuff, they keep doing it. You just don't want to address it with them because you're worried. I've ran a sales team for a long time. Hygiene. We had people in our office that had hygiene issues. Nobody wanted to have the conversation. You know what was one of the ways that I always gauge if somebody was a leader? The person that knew how to have the conversation and do it in a proper way, which is my next point. I always knew that person was somebody that could eventually be a leader. And everybody else, I was like, can you go tell him he smells? Can you go tell him? Can you go tell him? Can you go tell him? And we had these couple people, they would come in. It was an art. What a weird way to gauge somebody's ready to be a leader. They'll say, hey, Johnny, can I talk to you? Yeah. Johnny, you know everyone loves you here. Yes. Can I be honest with you? Yes. So I'm comfortable. You're okay with this? Yes. You sure? I have your permission? Yes. How often do you brush your teeth? What do you mean? My breath smells? Yes, it does. And I'm only telling you this because when it comes down to sales, if a customer has to smell something, they're gonna figure out a way to cancel the appointment as much as possible. And your closing ratio needs a little bit of help. And we've heard from some people, how often you shower? What do you use? What stick do you use? What do you use with this? What do you use with, and then we bring a gift. So here's what I use. First one is on me. Second one is on you. Can we kind of work on this together, you and I, and we keep this our little project to work on? Yes, fantastic. Awesome, great. Then obviously I'm giving you like a faster version of how it actually takes place. Next thing you know, the next day, do you know that person, if you do it in a gentle way, that person comes to you and says, hey, just to let you know, how do I smell? And it was always funny. I'm like, dude, you smell good. He says, like, watch this. Like, dude, you smell good, dog. Let's go close some. You're freaking sick. That's awesome. That person is ready to lead because they're able to have difficult conversations. So some of you are watching this saying, you know what? I got 7 people that smell bad. I'm going to go talk to them today. The point is, stop being afraid of having conversations that could lead to a conflict. Leaders are not afraid. The next one, a fear that many have.
That's freaking hilarious.
What do you think people are afraid of? Well, obviously it's not comfortable to bring up things, but I think that also it's not easy. But I mean, literally difficult to actually navigate the conversation in the way that he described. What are your thoughts about that? The people don't just have the skill of communicating properly.
When you say properly, you mean directly? You mean like they basically shy away from saying something if it seems like there's any sort of contentious, if there's any contention, if there's any, you know, is that what you mean? Or do you mean actually
so in actual fact, there is discomfort associated with any kind of contentiousness and any kind of, there are very only few people who actually thrive in with conflict, right? But so that part aside, let's say you've overcome that fear, okay? Then there is the actual method of diffusing the bomb. But that's what I mean. It takes a skill which people actually suck at. So even if they're like decided like, so there's still the other fear of like, well, how do I do it? How do I have the conversation? I think he gave a good example of, hey, blah, 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 everybody loves you, that kind of thing. I wouldn't do that first part, obviously, like I wouldn't, but I
don't care if you know that people love you or not. Go home. If you think people are supposed to love you here, we don't care. We just want you to make a sale. We're just trying to.
What do you think about that inability to have that? Because I find it because it has to do with, because I always look at it like it's like a puzzle, like a puzzle. And because when people talk about looking at everything like a puzzle, I tend not to go for that. But what I mean is there is a place you're trying to get to. It's almost like sales, right? It is a sale after all. It is a kind of complex conversation. You're trying to get to a point. How do you get there? What are possible objections to getting there? What is the right time? The right this, the right da. People don't. This is an assumption of mine. What do you think about that? Is that it's something that people struggle with?
Yeah. I but honestly, it seems to me, yeah. So there is the two separate things. There is the, I know this is a contentious sort of topic, so I don't want to do it, and then there's the sort of the actual verbiage, the like technique of saying what the contentious thing is, to make it maybe seem less a big a deal, and maybe actually make it seem like it's not just mean-spirited. Make me trying to take into account what you know about their sort of insecurities, so you can try to, you know, give it in a way that it's most likely going to be received. You know, one thing I say frequently is when you are listening, then you want to be able to receive everything that is said to you, even if they're cussing at you, smacking you in the face, talking about your mama, you know, doing all kind of, you know, wild and crazy stuff, you know, but you still want to be able to still get everything you can get out of that, right? When you are on the giving side, when you're transmitting the information, you want to be able to, you know, say things so, you know, so well, so clear, in the best way for the particular person that you're talking to be able to hear, which means that you have to know something about who they are, their past, their family history, their insecurities, their blah, 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 job history, you know, where they're from, you know, all of that kind of stuff. That's going to make you better at talking to that person. Right? Now, nobody's going to be perfect at either one of those, but that's like that. But that's not the reason you have sort of standards. Standards is not the right word. That's not the reason that you have what's the ideals, right? You don't have ideals because you think you're going to hit the ideal all the time. You have ideals to tell you where you are, right? So, you know, so all of that stuff you need to know, and how to say things, you know, that can, you know, sometimes it can become sort of crippling. Just even the thinking of all of these factors I need to, and I don't know, sometimes just ripping off the Band-Aid, just blurt it out and just say it straight. And even if you have to say, I don't know any other way to say this, it's not my intention to hurt your feelings or anything, but here's what's happening. You know, even if you do that, that's going to be better than stammering and stuttering along and not really saying it, and just, you know, mealing around, and you still haven't really said what it is yet, and you're making it worse and worse the longer you're talking. Just get it out. So I don't know.
Yep. Mode 1. You see, in Africa, it's actually more people actually. So my way of communicating tends to be better suited for the West. And it's not just because I've been in the West for longer. It's just my way. Or B, people whom are already at a particular level. And so if it's going to be like employees or something like that, I know to screen out a certain type. If I smell a little bit of your ego is too small, or you have pride issues, you have certain kind of extroverted feelings, centered type problems, I know that it's not going to work out. In Africa, for example, okay, things have to, you got to be like, people are very direct in terms of like communication and hierarchy. There's a strong sense of hierarchy here, right? If you're the boss, people expect you to just say it straight, say it harsh, have a bunch of consequences behind it, you know, like it's, which is not my style, because in my style, I want to make sure I'm communicating exactly what I want to make sure I don't have to say this crap again. You know what I mean? So I want to, okay, see, here's why I'm saying it, right? Here is the principle behind it. Okay. It's like the thing I typically say when I'm like, okay, well, don't put your purse on the counter. The next day you have a cup on the counter, or your shoe on the counter, or a folder on the counter. It's like I don't want to have to give you a list of things not to put on the counter. I want you to understand the principle behind this place is a central location. There's a reason why you have your little cubby hole, blah blah blah. So I tend to communicate that way, and that's why I say it tends to be okay in the West because it kind of it has a let me explain myself approach, which seems to be it seems that is to be more congenial, collegiate, whatever, right? That's why it works in the West. Um, and but also I said for people at a particular level because I'm trying to communicate the reasons behind things. I don't want to do this whole freaking blah blah blah. But what I found is but anyways, even though in Africa people have to be more direct and stuff like that, I don't. I cut those people off. When if I'm hiring people, if I'm working with people, I don't like to work with people where I have to be, giving them a list, being direct, doing all that kind of crap. It's like, no, you got to be high level enough to see what the hell is going on here. I can't be repeating myself with you. I can't do that crap.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't really want to have to teach you how to do your job, really. I mean, I can model it. I can give you the ropes. I can show you the specifics of what you need, but the sort of skill set associated with and the knowledge of that skill set, I don't want to be involved in telling you that stuff. Otherwise, I should just hire somebody else. I don't want to do that because I already have too much stuff going on. And that seems to, yeah. And, I should not have to itemize. I don't care how you get it done. Here's the objective. Just do this. Okay. This is what I want. You're the person that I'm hiring to be able to do this. So I have to tell you how to do that too.
Watch a YouTube video. Do this, do that. Fake it. Use a different software. Like use Word and then send it to PDF and then modify the PDF and then do. It doesn't matter what you do, bro. It doesn't matter. Just get it done and make it look like a reasonable human being did it. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. I get that. All right, let's keep going.
You ready? Do you know why people fear having a conflict? Because they think it's going to get ugly and it's going to get nasty and it's going to get screaming, all this other stuff. The only reason that should happen is because of one thing, and that's the approach. We're at the cigar lounge the other day at the boardroom. We finished up the cigar. We're having our first cigar we're breaking. We're having a great conversation at that. One of the players, absolute stud of a guy, Haas, says, which topic should you avoid bringing up when you're working with people? Any subjects that you avoid? I said, it's crazy. We're always been told, don't talk about religion, politics, all this other stuff. I said, I never followed that philosophy because I'm interested in those things and I want to know what people think because I don't have all the truth and I want to learn from people. I said, what I learned over the years, the problem isn't the subject. The problem is the approach in which you address the subject. Let me give a perfect scene of a movie for you. There's a movie called The Roadhouse. Roadhouse, the movie by one of my favorite actors of all time, Patrick
Roadhouse.
Swayze. There is a scene. In the scene, he's talking to all the security guards that they're running this bar. And it's one of those old acting that was it's such a fake acting. But anyway, it's just like fun to watch. I watched this so many times in the army. And they're asking a question. He says, you ask them to leave, but be nice. Instead of me doing the acting, just watch this short clip here.
Somebody gets in your face and calls you a cocksucker. I want you to be nice. Okay. Ask him to walk, but be nice. If he won't walk him, but be nice. If you can't walk him, one of the others will help you, and you'll both be nice.
Very simple concept. Address the conflict, but be nice and respectful. Address the issue, but be nice. That's how simple it is. The only reason you fear conflict is because you're not being nice with your approach. So point number 9 is something all of us.
Okay, so again, there's the assumption that people are okay, and it's a good assumption that people are normal, they're healthy, they're not hypersensitive, they're not coming into a work environment and they expect everything to cater to their feelings, and we need to have this and that, and people have to walk around eggshells around me. From in my point of view, such people should those people are not ideal whatsoever, right? Um, if if they have pronouns on their LinkedIn profile,
Oh no.
then but you get the picture, right? If
I'm streaming this to
point is-
LinkedIn, right?
well, it's one of those things. Where it's like, well,
most of most of the people on LinkedIn have pronouns, right? Okay, go ahead.
a lot of people on LinkedIn have pronouns, but let me tell you, since let's park the bus slightly right here at this very point, okay, and talk a little bit about what people are thinking versus what they say. Right? This is typical, falsifying preferences. People take polls and they say, "I'm going to vote for this person." It's an
Yeah.
anonymous poll, but they're lying. Right? In an anonymous poll, they claim that no one is voting for Trump, apparently, right? But then all of a sudden they come out. People falsify their preferences all the time. Same thing with employers, okay? There are very few actual employers. I'll define what I mean by actual employers if need be in a minute. There are very few actual employers that will look at you doing things like the pronoun stuff and not have a judgment that is on the negative associated with it. That they will pull back and be guarded a little bit because, generally speaking, people don't want an additional thing to have to think about. And what the pronoun suggests is that you're somebody who is particularly concerned with the environment, right? And how it has to cater to you. Okay. That's simply what it suggests. This is what employers are thinking. Okay. This is what I am thinking for sure. 100%. I'm thinking that. Now they may BS you because they went to some MBA program or some retreat last weekend where they were told to say X, Y, or Z, and they'll BS you with that stuff. But this is what the employers are thinking, especially if they're people whom are the builder type. Okay, they built the company or they're within the company and they actually like building things and doing things as opposed to just being this managerial class whom is just there to cater to people and all that kind of stuff. So that is what I mean by having those pronouns there is a signifier of something, and people are gonna not people it's just an extra thing to it's like, what am I getting into here? Right? Why did you feel the need to put that in there? And this is not a question about the pronouns you choose, it's a fact about the fact that you're putting it up there, which is also a signaling thing that you're doing. And you just got to note that, look, this, to use the phrase wokeness stuff, is not um most people are falsifying their preferences with regards to it, and they're not going to tell you this stuff. But anyways, we can move the bus along here, and then we can continue talking about this Roadhouse thing. So I'm sorry, can you hear me, by the way, or have I
Yes.
gone
Yes.
into no things moving? Okay. So the Roadhouse thing being nice, it assumes that everyone is okay and sensible. There are some people that you cannot bring up the religion or politics stuff with, and this is one of those rules that has to do with the minority. In other words, it's saying the there is a low chance, okay, a minority chance that it's a problem if you bring up religion and politics. But the kind of explosion that you could have when if you bring it up with this wrong person who is a minority, right, is so big that it's not even worth it. It's like, yeah, it's a low probability that if you bring up certain kinds of topics in the workplace, or if you're trying to take certain kind of actions. So I don't agree with the rule. First of all, but I'm just saying that I'm just kind of characterizing the nature of this one of these kinds of rules. It's like, oh, well, don't bring up religion or politics. It's like, well, typically it's not a problem, but if you encounter one of these crazy people, okay, and you talk about whatever some diversity or an inclusion thing they're not into. The headache that comes with it is just so much. Ultimately, you need to be in an environment that doesn't contain such people. Is really what I'm getting at, and you need to clear that out. So that's the only thing I'll kind of add as a qualifier to what he's saying. He probably knows that yes, there are just crazy people out there that you before you even finish your sentence, they're like, are you saying, or do you mean, that kind of crap. But yeah, definitely, it's your bad for having those people around you. I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? Be nice. It's about the approach. Anything can be broached. It's just about the approach.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and I that never talk about politics or religion thing. That's something that I've sort of defied for most of my life, because those are the conversations that I think are actually of the most importance. Those are of the most critically important. Politics is your association with people, and religion, it suggests why it is that you do anything, what your motivation is, what you think you're going to gain or lose out of your conduct, out of what it is you do. So those are that stuff is I can't think of something that's more important than those things. Now, there's a difference between that and proselytizing. If you're at work trying to convert people or trying to invite them to Bible study and stuff like that, I think that's inappropriate. Okay, and what are we doing here? That shouldn't be the approach anyway. What did I think it's Saint Anselm, or I always forget the guy who says, preach the gospel at all times, when necessary, use words. So even if you are one of these folks that feels like you need to be spreading your faith, you don't need words for that anyway. Why don't you just focus on doing a good job? Right? So that would be my sort of thoughts on that. As far as politics goes, yeah, politics would be important, especially in a business sort of situation. If a particular party is going to propose policy that jacks up, the corporate tax rate? What is this called? The capital gains, right? Mm-hmm. If they're talking about cranking that up, and if they do crank it up, what are you going to do to address that? So there are certain things that would be pertinent. Now, you don't need to devolve into a conversation about every woke topic or any of that kind of stuff. So I do happen to agree that having conversations about things that are religion and politics are important, and that's actually, I think, has a lot to do with getting to know people. Culture would be another thing to be willing to have conversations about. And again, that's become one of these topics where you're not supposed to talk about culture because invariably you're going to make some value judgments. You're going to make some comparisons.
You're supposed to talk. You could talk about white culture all day, especially if you're saying what's wrong with it, right?
That's right.
Typically,
that's right.
But if you talk about any other person's culture, then what do you mean by culture? And culture, all the sociology textbooks get thrown at you.
Right. And so
nobody understands what it means anymore.
Yeah. And so yeah. I mean, so you have to be careful. You have to be have some tact with it. I think that's true. I do think that the way that you do it, I think, has something to do with it. And by the way, I do agree with what you're saying before. I think that there's a lot of people that are sort of just bending the knee to a lot of the SJW threats. Basically, they're bending the knee because they don't see it as a fight worthy to fight. I'm sorry, they don't see it as a fight that they don't want to die on that hill. Let's put it that way. They have other things that they're like, look, I'll give you this. If this is what I have to do, I'll kiss the ring. I'll do it. What do you need me to do? You need me to kneel? What you want? Do I need to add something to my email signature? What you need? So
embrace diversity and inclusion. That's the latest. Anyways, go ahead.
That's right. Whatever it is, I'll just do it. I do agree that a lot of folks are doing that because when you actually get into conversations with them outside of the workplace, even folks that you notice that have these signatures, they themselves have serious issues with the movement that is imposing its will on the culture, on American society, the way, on Western society, the way that this thing is, right? But you wouldn't know that if you weren't willing to have, certain kind of conversations. But again, probably wouldn't have those conversations in context at work per se. I do think that because there's so much fear about certain topics and, being the next victim of cancel culture, the next person X'd, for whatever reason, socially ostracized and everything else, for having a particular criticism that it's not, it's not a mean-spirited criticism. It's not I think that there's, that you're an evil person or wrong. It's just, I just don't happen to agree with that perspective. That's not my perspective. Even expressing, I think a lot of people have a fear, even if you do that, then that's going to be the end. So they sign on the dotted line, they bow, they kiss the ring, they add the, whatever they need to their email signature. And then, and then there's a bunch of folks that are, if you want to rise in a company's or in a university administrative structure, then you'll notice that those folks will tend to do more of that stuff. They'll be the first people to adopt those things. And I'm not suggesting that they don't. Look, I'm not singling anybody out. I'm not suggesting that they necessarily don't believe in that stuff. They could, but I just, it seems to me that most of them, it's like, oh, this is a uniform I have to wear. Oh, I don't like this color, but hey, that's what the uniform is. It's that kind of thing.
I believe it was Saint Francis of Assisi, by the way, with the preaching.
Thank you. That's right.
Now, I like that statement. It's one of those things that it's like I like it 99.9%. I agree with the sentiment 100%. The fact that it had to be said, anyways. Let me not get all convoluted and twisted. There's some things where it's just like, if you are preaching the gospel through your actions in a certain kind of a conscious way, there's something that smacks of disingenuousness still about it. You may see what I'm getting at here, where if you do, it's like, dude, you should be living your life, and it better be right, as opposed to you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, but I agree. I get what you're saying. I think in the spirit that it's given was not to be actually even considering or thinking about, because what is it? Exactly. Get the log out of your own eye before you get the speck out of your brother's eye, right? So in the removing of the log of your own eye, that's the preaching the gospel, in, if necessary, use words. That's what we're talking about. So you're not even thinking about this other guy over here. You're just trying to be the best you and do your job. and then
Yeah,
that's all you need.
yeah, well put. And with the parable of the two people, praying, where one is praying about his problems and the other guy is pointing to the other guy saying, "I'm not like that guy." That's another place that emphasizes that that ethic as well, right? But
Oh, that's
to
funny.
this point,
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite joints in there. Oh Lord, thank you that I'm not like the sinners, and all that I'm. Oh, you freaking phony. Oh.
it's crazy. Um, this thing about talking about certain things, this is not now I'm just adding my own little cherry on top in terms of so you know how Jordan Peterson doesn't like to answer certain questions, and
Yeah.
I I I'm like 100% in that camp, because I just can't have certain conversations with with most people, because
Yeah.
and it's related to this whole religion and politics thing, because most people don't even understand the words. Most people are not even using the same words in these areas, because the broader the topic, the more, shall we say, abstract and conceptual it becomes, the harder it is mentally. And this is true.
Yeah.
People don't like to think about this as being true when it comes to God and religion stuff. People like to think, oh, but it should be. It's like, no, it is not really. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Especially
it shouldn't be.
yeah. If you're gonna
That
talk about it,
that's
it's
sort
one
of
thing. Yeah.
yeah. That's sort of like saying okay, so there's a difference between simple and simplistic, right?
Mhm.
So simplistic is like, even a second grader, first grader can give you an adequate description. That's simplistic. Simple really means sort of essential, fundamental, boiled, broken down to its simplest form, its
Mhm.
least complex form. It is, it's, dare I say, axiomatic form. Like it's, it, and
Mhm.
that is that ain't simplistic. That's
No, it's difficult to grasp. Um, it's difficult to throw a blanket around that stuff. Obviously, if something is tangible, if we're talking about a piece of gravel on the table that everybody could look at, and we're talking about simple attributes of the gravel, such as its weight and its color and stuff, like, perfectly fine. You want to talk about concepts like politics, and then broaden it even to concepts like religion. Those are the most abstract things. It's like now we don't even know if the same words are meaning the same thing in the and yes, 100%. Those things can be simple, like the axiomatic, like like God, or like the the law of gravitation, having to do with the curvature of space time and this that. Those things are quite simple. It's like there's a one line equation, force of gravity equals to G, big mass, little mass, divided by R squared. Very simple. But okay, you could spend a lot of time unpacking that stuff and its
100%.
implications and so on and so forth.
Here,
So
can I want
that
to I want to ask you something about this, and this is admittedly a tangent. I think we will be able to get back, but so one thing about religion that is there's a lot of folks that will do the the sort of expression, Christianity is not a religion, it's a way of life, this kind of thing, because they don't like the religion term. They see religion as being the term religion as being problematic, as sort of anti-relationship. So
Hmm.
now we could spend probably several hours just talking on this topic. I know, but what is your what are your general thoughts? What do you think about that? I'm always sort of revolted by that idea,
Hmm.
because I think it can be both, and I don't think that. Okay, I don't want to.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would, the people whom are saying that, there is a sense in which perhaps they are in the camp of not wanting to, that whole Jordan Peterson camp, or like what I said about, look, if we need to refine our words, but they don't want to do the work of expressing themselves or just saying, yes, I'm religious. They rather do something which kind of is more in line with the zeitgeist, the times, which would, first of all, there's the step of making it, oh, it's a personal relationship. And then
Oh
no, now it's
goodness
like a
gracious!
lifestyle
Oh
thing where it's like so those are the different kind of shorthand. And that shorthand exists in the realm of feelings, especially extroverted feeling, that kind of stuff. Because the lines I'm trying to draw are going to be in the realm of thinking, where it's like I'm going to try to demarcate and think through and tell you, okay. um, so I don't like it either. I don't like that approach. I see where they're
man,
coming from.
I have
I
to tell
kind of,
you, man,
yeah.
that personal relationship stuff. Oh my goodness! First of all, it's redundant because what do you think relationship means? What are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like,
No, really. What are we talking about when you say I have a relationship? Like if I say I have a relationship with Ike, Ike is my friend. I have a relationship with Ike. Do I need to say I have a personal relationship with Ike?
it's an impersonal relationship.
It's like, come on, man. So first of all, you're over baking the potato even before you get out the gate, because you're trying to be super Christian. Because what folks have been doing for generations, that ain't strong enough stuff for you, right? So it's like it's like a smug, it's like an arrogance. It's like a spiritual arrogance in it.
Yeah, I 100% see it, and the reason why it's so common is because, again, unfortunately, it's a personality thing, and now why it also happened is because a lot of people have been allowed, given the ability to kind of express their own particular thoughts with regards to things like this, right? It now, however, if you see the real thing, okay, and I'm not, I may be giving them too much credit, so I'm not saying that they're even maybe thinking this. I think they may be playing some other game, okay. But there are things that have to do with the fact that, look, you cannot make an image of God, and this image, which is a symbol, which is a communication, right? Meaning, you see what I'm saying, right? Meaning there is something profoundly internal and mysterious about it all that cannot be communicated in a certain sense, right? And
Yep.
the name of God, all the things, all from the Old Testament all the way through to the New, that center on this. And leave one particular religion and go to many other religions, they kind of talk about this stuff because, after all, we're pointing at the same thing, right? Pointing in the same direction. And when you point in that direction, there is something not communicable, generally speaking, about it.
Yep.
But then, yes, I haven't said that as a kind of an axiom. Then we can then know that, okay, everything I'm going to be saying now from here is a description of something and something and something. Is insofar as you're asking me about some kind of a personal image of God, personal belief, whatever in God, blah 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 blah. So that would be like the first thing to be stated. But then there's this other aspect of, okay, you could just read texts, you read the letters of Paul and you talk about it, um which is something that people also don't, most people are not necessarily going to be interested in. Most people are not going to be able to grasp in a even like what's Dennis Prager. I think Dennis Prager is part of some panel that Jordan Peterson is doing, which unfortunately I'm not watching because um I it's a continuation of Exodus, and it's like, dude, I wanted Jordan Peterson to just continue in his element, standing up, talking to a crowd, as opposed to having these other people here. So Dennis Prager is a smart guy, but he comes in with this kind of it's very very it just gets it's like it's all the normal stuff which you've heard before, right? And you're like, for me, it's not like okay, I've heard that before. Okay, I know all that. It's
Yeah,
like it's
and,
not
well, and
it's
this
not
is
from.
and this is interesting. I want to make a because when you say it's the stuff that you've heard before, okay, so it's not because you've heard stuff before. It's because of how
Mhm.
oh goodness, the spirit of the times, the usual,
Mhm.
usual business. Because I'd argue that when I listen to Jordan, when I listen to other scholars and things, when they put something in a particular way, and it really grabs me in a way, it's not because it's something that I haven't heard before.
Mhm.
It's just that
I can clarify
yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean. It's seeing somebody wrestle with something. One way to put it is take it seriously, right? Another way
Yeah, yeah,
to put it is they are wrestling with it in real time. You want to
yeah.
see a soul take this thing and pass it
Oh,
through
right.
them in real time.
Yeah, it's like
And the
transparent.
Dennis
It's like
Prager just
it's a
coming with
transparent
a bag
honesty.
of
Yeah,
books, and I'm like,
yeah,
come
yeah, yeah. It's like a transparent honesty. Yeah,
on. Mhm.
I see. Yeah, I totally get that. Um, and that's an interesting. And we'll get back to these last couple points here, but that's like an interesting phenomena. Uh, let's see, a usual. I mean, it's a regularly occurring feature of existence, is this desire to sort of uh it to see like people kind of reach just beyond their grasp.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
just it's like we want to see this is the baddest dude,
Mhm.
but we still want to see that dude even like reach beyond.
Mhm.
Like we'd rather see somebody that's like mediocre, but we know that they're like reaching just beyond than we would, somebody that, was all over it, but it just seemed like it was just like all easy and been there and done it.
It's interesting because it's very related to this thing we're talking about here of leadership, right? I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
we would follow that guy reaching as opposed to the guy who's just coming with some kind of authority. Authority based on what? I'm wondering. Like it's like, you're just laying down the law based on a tradition of XYZ, no matter how complex. It's like it's not very charismatic. It's at
Yeah.
least is what I would say. It's not very charismatic, and not that everybody needs to be charismatic, but I'm not listening to everybody. I'm going to Jordan Peterson because he has that thing, and because in my own view of the pursuit of these kinds of things, it is about reaching, and it is about not knowing that after all it is faith, right? And the wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And all that. So yeah, 100%. I think that all these things we just mentioned recently are what those people should be pointing to, but I don't think they probably even got out of the gate with any of this, right? So they
Mm.
just kind of do the let me just say what is cool thing, or I'll just say that I'm spiritual, not religious, and so on and so
Ugh.
forth. I'll say things like that. Um, and it's part of why I just kind of stay away from the general conversation because it's like, why talk about stuff if we're not? I don't see the point. I don't see the point in this just talking
Well,
when
no.
we're not
It's just
talking.
no. The reason, no. The reason. Let me inform you, Ike. It's to make them feel good about.
Yeah, yeah,
It's to make them feel good. That's the point. It's not to it's not to actually cover any ground or elucidate or dig deeper. You know,
yeah.
uncover
I bet you're
some
right.
deeper spirituality. It's really just it's a kumbaya. You know, hey, I'm a Christian too. You know, it's that that thing. It's kind of it's a tribal. Like, who are you? I'm gonna see if you butter your bread the same way. Okay, you
Here's
butter
what
your
I
bread the
worry
same
about,
way.
though.
We're good.
On my own part, what I worry about, if I were to kind of be like, if there's a missing of the mark on my part, if there's a sin on my part, it would be, am I too worried about being an iconoclast? Am I too, no, I don't want to do the regular thing with the regular people, right?
Okay, now wait a minute. Now,
Um,
when you say, hold up, when you say iconoclast, are you saying sort of hurting their feelings from? Is that what you mean, or
no,
what do you mean?
I mean, am I when I do the whole, I don't really want to talk about this stuff, or I want to talk about it in this way, or let me nuance. Am I What percentage of that has to do with this real aspect of my personality, which is not liking the herd? Like, legitimately, I could
Oh,
say that I
okay,
do
yeah,
not
I
like
got
the
you.
herd.
Yeah.
So and I'm not an idiot, so I'm gonna know that that thing has its issues, right? Like, I know that there's an issue with wanting to step aside from anything that smacks of herd, right? So what? How much of, yeah? So that is my
Let me
own. Yeah.
yeah, let me describe something to you. This is interesting. Somebody made this comment to me, and um I actually didn't know what to say to it at first. Um and then I thought more about it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Um but uh so I converted to, you know, Orthodox Christianity, Eastern Orthodox. And that was what was it, like 2004? Um and I didn't grow up that way, and that's totally different in, you know, I suppose some folks, given the religion of my upbringing, the more kind of Pentecostal, charismatic, you know, kind of stuff, it can almost seem contrarian. Like, it's like the furthest away from that you can get with, while still claiming to be, you know, you know, um, and but no, that definitely wasn't the thing. There was a lot of issues that I had, and I needed to solve those problems, which probably problems I was going to have. A lot of it has to do with my personality type, and the kinds of stuff that actually tends to, you know, that I'm interested in, that tends to actually, you know, help me to stay engaged. You know, surface level, I can't do it, and there's just too much surface level in the sort of brand of Christianity that I grew up in. And somebody said something to me. They said, you know, they were, you know, they were thankful that though I had moved on to the Eastern Orthodox thing, that I was still willing to have conversations with folks that weren't Orthodox, you know? And when I first said that, I was like, now, why wouldn't I have conversations with people, you know? And then I thought about it more, and I was like, okay, yeah, I see what they're saying. So I guess I'm saying that to say, so you have a particular introspection that I think is valuable. So picking your spots in who to actually have the conversation with, even if it maybe takes a little more labor than you ordinarily would be comfortable with, may still be a positive thing, right? Because people can't follow. If you cover your trail, then it makes it much harder for people to figure out where you are, kind of a thing. And,
yeah, it's kind of the thing where it's like, okay, because I mean, I think that there are different points of everyone's going to be judged. Well, this is just like a psychological experiment. Like, obviously, everyone is going to be judged differently, but also in the same way.
Right.
What I mean by that is like, okay, for me, if God were to, my judgment there is like, okay, cool. It'll be that tiny little corner there of, okay, how much of this thing that you're doing is about that whole I don't deal with the unwashed masses, right? That is, and I know that. I know that. I'm not gonna be like BSing myself about that. So yeah. That is my little, yeah. So, and yeah, it does have to do with the question that you asked about, like, what do I think about all that kind of stuff, and for me, there is an aspect that what I need to clean up, polish, and work on is my not liking the masses, the herd.
You're not liking people. So anyhow, I have to work on that too. But so this is interesting because the other side of that is, but I mean, how many people did Yoda really train though?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is that. It's like, are you supposed to like just be like trying to take everybody on? That's always the that's always the struggle. That is always the struggle. It's like, okay, and that comes back to, that's like a marketing thing, right? It's like your marketing strategy. Are you going to do the marketing wide open, everybody can get some, which means that it has to be very shallow, because these jive turkeys ain't gonna work for nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be very shallow, but then everybody can get some. Or are you going to do this super deep thing that nobody is trying to deal with? And then once in a generation, you find that one person. Oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Man, it's a struggle, because obviously that one person is really going to be served.
Mm-hmm.
Is really going to be helped. And how many people are you really helping with this like superficial, super broad, everybody can get some, kind of thing? Like, you not moving nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you may, I don't know, dare I say, even financially benefit from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
but nobody is being made better. Not really. Not in a way that actually matters. And it always ends up there. And I said something, I don't know, years ago at this point. How long have we been doing this show, man? We've been doing it for a few years now. It's
21. 21,
was
I
it
believe.
21
Yeah,
that
so
we started?
right at the beginning of 21 is, I believe, could have been the end of 2020. I started my
remember
YouTube
we
channel
started doing, because we were doing it like once a month, and then we started doing twice a week. Twice a month, and then we started going to every week. But yeah, but I said something long ago about man, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
We're talking about well, basically the many versus the few. How many people did Yoda train? Whom are you going to serve? Do you find a particular one person? And you probably moved on slightly from that, and we're going to put a pin on it with something else, which I'm not sure. But that's what you were talking about. The last things you were talking about was that. So,
Well, maybe it'll come back to me. It was so profound. Y'all missed out on that. All right, so this. All right, here we go.
Can work on, all of us, to ask before you assume. So it's to be understanding. Only way you can be understanding is by asking questions of what's going on. Sometimes we don't have full context. Sometimes we don't know what's going on in that person's personal life or their life or what they are dealing with. This is why having a relationship with the individual is a good thing, and asking questions. How are things? How you doing? What's going on? Where you at with this? Where you at with that? And then they'll tell you. And then you say, I've noticed certain trends lately that the numbers and the performance and the way you've been behaving is not what's typically matches with your common consistent trend. Has something changed? Yeah, let me explain to you what's going on. What's that? And they're gonna open it. I'm going through a difficult time in my marriage. My mom is sick. I'm going through this. Something I'm going through. It's really tough. No problem. So show understanding. And they say, I totally understand that you're going through this. I'm so sorry you're going through this. At the same time, we have a business to run and it's challenging. What level of expectation can I have from you moving forward during this season of your life? Pat, trust me, I'm gonna get back to what I'm doing. Okay, great. Or, Pat, I don't know. Hey, how about we do this? Do you want to take the next 2 days off? Go spend time with your family. Can I do that? Go take PTO. Do your thing. Spend time with your family. But when we come back on Monday, I want your best. You have no idea how much I appreciate this. Great, no problem. That's the part about having the conversation as long as you're asking what they're going through. It is our job to be understanding. And if you do that, you don't have to fear conflict. Last point.
I don't. Okay, so this is very effective for most people. So actually, this is good advice. It's kind of funny because we were just talking about this whole kind of what's effective for most versus blah, blah, blah. For me, I don't want you asking me those questions. I don't want to tell you about what's going on, even if I know that there is a way in which, then again, I doubt it. I don't think it has to do with my performance. Like whatever else may be going on in the background that it's like it's not gonna show up. That's not what's happening. And if it does show up, we don't have to go back that far. We don't have to peel the onion back that far where it's like, oh, this is what's going on, and that's like no. So for me, I tend not to ask people that stuff. I do understand though, like one of my best employees had some heart stuff recently, and he strikes me as a particular type also that would not appreciate it if I were to kind of like get into the so how did it go when he came back, right? So you recovered now. So I didn't ask any of that, right? And my wife was like, oh, so how is he doing? And I'm like, I don't know. This is not. And the thing is, I'm not blunt with it in terms of like a blunt instrument. Like if he was the type, if he struck me as a particular type, I would do a little bit of that kind of a thing. I'm just very well aware of the other side where there is a type of person that doesn't want that. Okay? Because I'm that type of person. I don't want to get into. I have this meeting coming up next Monday. It's going to be about some real business stuff and why certain numbers are not looking the way they should look. And I know people are going to want to start with certain kind of pleasantries. And that's my least favorite. That's the part I'm dreading. It's like, I wish we could just come in and boom, let's just get right into this shit. What the hell is going on with these numbers?
I cannot stand freaking small talk. I can't stand that this stuff is ominous. You know why we're here. But let's talk about some booze for a while. I cannot do it, man.
Let's get right in. I want to jump in the ring. Let's start it. So, yes, though, what he said is actually true for most people.
No.
So I take that because I'm a fairly good reader of people. If I know that kind of, but I also know this other type of person whom is rare that doesn't need that. So that's why I didn't ask that guy a damn thing about his hospital stay, what the diagnosis was, how his family's like, nothing. And I'm sure he appreciated the fact that I didn't ask any of that. He came back like, oh, so you're back now? Boom. And we went right into the task at hand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm the same way. I don't really want people asking me any questions. Matter of fact, I told, online, because it wasn't because I was in a different vehicle, and I had a couple different vehicles, and I was like, well, let me just tell them that I totaled my car, no big deal, right? So, you're right, but I mean, I didn't even really share that stuff with my family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I think I said something to my dad about it because I was talking to him about,
Yeah.
what my next move was going to be as far as a vehicle and stuff like this. But I didn't tell him my like siblings and stuff. Why do they need to know that? Why does that?
Yeah.
How does that have any impact on them? Why do they care? Why would they care? But then what happens is my mom calls me, and she's kind of like upset with me because I didn't tell her.
Okay.
Or no, not because I didn't tell her. She asked me if it was okay for her to share that with my siblings. And I was like, why do they need to know? See, because here's the reason. Now, and I understand and I respect the reason why she first of all, I appreciate that she asked me rather than just like calling people and telling them. So then I get a bunch of like text messages and stuff like this. Asking me how I'm doing or am I okay? And I'm just like, well, at this point, it's like days past. I don't even, I'm fine, and I'm just thinking I'm moving. Man, I still have stuff to do. I'm not thinking about that anymore. I'm just happy that I have a car that I can get around in, and I don't care. I don't. Why does that matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be like, for the wrong reasons, the sort of focus of people's attention for the reasons that are not related to my productivity, the value that I bring, the kind of person that I am, those are the things that are, my talent, my, my hard work, my, all of the being a man, all of the qualitative, production oriented, stuff. That's the only stuff that I need anyone, and actually I don't even need them to, but that's the only stuff that I would even want anyone to make any comment about. Any of the rest of the stuff, I do not care. And it's just aggravating because it can almost come across like you would rather talk about some stuff that was just like happenstance, some stuff that happened to me, rather than talk about some stuff that I'm actually doing. That's the actually output of my hands, the stuff that I'm intentional about. And so that's the way that it comes across. And I know that people don't mean it that way. I know that. But in a timeline, and you look at how much the abundance of attention based on certain things that happen to you, and then on the other kinds of stuff that you're happening, it's like, dude, it's hard not to, sort of see it that way, and at least for me, to get sort of annoyed by it.
So, that's how people deal with it, is to kind of spread it. They spread it, that whole problem shared is, that's kind of how they deal with things. Now everything you said there, I 100% agree with. It's foreign, it's messy, it's weird. That's how they do it. The more you talk, I'm like, yeah, shout out to Ayn Rand. She was the INTJ philosopher that only certain people understand. It was her stuff is very particular to very particular personality type, which is just like, but very profound. But I think it was kind of narrow because she was very much about this particular type of person. But I think she was very important for that because this type of person is rare, and otherwise it was good that we had somebody that just kind of said what we were freaking thinking. Like all this other stuff you guys are saying is BS. We want to do the what's the intention, what's the all that kind of stuff, right? 100%. I'm with you on that. I had a similar conversation recently, actually with my mom and dad as well, where I had to say something that I didn't say, right, for a while. Like, so because stuff came out, I was just like, look, here's what's happening. And then they're like, oh, why did you should tell us stuff. And this is stuff they've been telling me for my whole life. It's like my whole life you've been asking me to say these things. You think I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna say these things, okay? If something happens tomorrow, like no, I'm just gonna pick up, we're gonna move on. And it's kind of interesting that, and also I think my wife appreciates this. Now she's more extroverted than me, but I think she's actually an introvert too. But there's different grades of this thing, right?
That's right. It's on a spectrum.
So personality type. What? Pardon me? What did you say?
Yeah, that's right. It's on a spectrum.
Yeah. So I think she's an ISTJ. Okay. So whatever. If you're into that kind of stuff, you could go look it up. But basically, they're more extroverted. And I think, generally speaking, even any woman would appreciate a man that doesn't come out and spread their issues like butter on everybody else, including on her, right? So she knows that I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah, man, crap's going on or whatever. I'm just kind of like, it made, it's in the air that, yeah. But she doesn't expect me to say it. She knows I'm not going to say it. And we kind of had like a short kind of like conversation about it. Like, yeah, yeah, something is going to I'm going to just be like, okay, cool. Here's the new plan. And wherever the plan comes from, who knows why or who knows what's going on. But hey, we're just going to move on. So I think, and then I thought about it that now. I was like, yeah, it's, even if a woman might be like, oh yeah, I want you to open up. In other words, a kind of Western woman may say that,
Right.
Other women tend not to. They don't want you to open up with your stuff. It is way less of a burden for them. They know that something is going on, so they may do, whatever, come and give you extra breakfast, do something, right? But they don't want to hear it. Okay, the last thing they want is to hear it. Okay, and anyways, just wanted to add that part.
Yeah, and and there's a difference between someone telling you that if you need to have a conversation with them, that they're there to support you, and them actually wanting you to take advantage of that. Not like you're, you understand what I'm saying. So anyhow, All right, let's get this last point in.
Make it for you. Easy, not going to be long on this. Everything is about you. All the decisions you make is how it benefits you. If you're a leader, the decisions have to be made with how it benefits the organization first, then you. It's a team over me mentality, company over me mentality. When you're running a company, who has to get the checks first? Who has to get paid first? Your supporting cast, your team. I didn't get paid for a long time when we started the insurance company, and every month my savings were depleting because I needed to make sure my staff was getting paid because they trusted my vision. It had to be them first before me. I'm not telling you if you're an employee or executive or director, you should not get paid. That's not what I'm saying to you. All I'm saying to you is when you're leading your team, think about what's in the best interest of the company, of the team, of the vision, then you. Lead with that. And if you come from that place, more people will take your counsel, your direction, and your vision. I got a video to recommend to you about my oldest son. Watch this video.
All right. So that is the end.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that one is again, it's just one of those things where it's like, well, whom is that for? Like, it's like if you are in a position where you actually built a company. I know there are many people who actually try to do stuff that they're not qualified for. And by qualified, I just mean like they've not. I borrowed this term from Kaizo, which he talks about high level, which is, and it's a way of talking about a particular psychological disposition that has nothing to do with raw intelligence. You can be very intelligent, have an IQ of whatever, but you're not high level. Okay. And high level basically means, let's say, for example, it's a dimensional thing. It's like you have an extra dimension, an extra degree of freedom. So if you have flatlanders, right, you have the flat land, and you have in this flat land, there's a separation, a wall in the third dimension that separates two people. We can use a recent kind of separation that we discussed, having to do with, let's say, the nerds on one side, and then the action-oriented, political, and money-oriented people on the other side, right? The normal level people are on this flat land, okay, they cannot cross over the wall, okay, they cannot. A high level person is, they can move in the third dimension, they can move up and then cross over the wall, go, and they can hover back and forth. So it's just a question of dimensionality, okay? So if you're a high level person, you know, of course, that you're freaking gotta pay your people. So I don't think, oh, it's about them. It's about you still. I don't like that, this kind of it's like you're building a company. Of course, you know, like I naturally moved into the mode of making sure I have enough of a runway in the bank, making sure the employees are getting theirs first. Of course. But I would no way want, I would never, because I'm being honest, and I don't think there's any reason to lie about it, or I don't have that kind of a ethic that is all about, you know, so simplistic, right? I'm supposed to be so simplistic as to just be like, oh, it's all, if you make it about other people, then it's good. It's like that kind of weird fake altruism. Obviously not my thing. Shout out to Ayn Rand. But I don't, it'll be completely dishonest and disingenuous for me to be saying that I'm doing stuff for other people. I know for sure that nothing's gonna work if these people are not taken care of. And it's, some people may hear, if you hear that and you think it's from like a bad place, that, oh, these people are just instruments, that's your bag. Because when I say just instruments, I use the word just there because they are indeed instruments, okay? But they're not just instruments, okay? That's projection that other people are putting on me when they or on this particular kind of stance here, or this kind of a, because to be high level is to look at things like, for example, a soldier versus a general. A general knows that soldiers are going to need to die when they send a couple of waves to attack that hill so that they buy time for this other cavalry to arrive or whatever. That's, he's looking at it from a higher level, okay? And are those other soldiers just instruments? They are instruments with it, but it's when you say just, it's a way of kind of belittling and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, leadership is about understanding stuff at a higher level of a higher dimensionality, and it's not about, and then making the same, making the simplistic kind of you versus them dichotomy is just not sufficient. It's but then again, I've lost like 85% of people, both in fact and in also in terms of practicality, where they may say, why does it matter if it's, if, in other words, there's nothing wrong with him saying make it about other people. Me quibbling with it and talking about dimensions and stuff like that, yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah, there's a sense in which serving the self requires that you serve the community.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's that whole subject of all about you seems to be only one-dimensional, right? If you consider what's actually best for you as being a multifaceted, multidimensional sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So because you won't be able to, I mean, so it's kind of like I don't know. I have some apples here. I can just decide that I want everything for me right now. And so then I decide to eat all of the apples. Or I could eat half of the apples and plant a bunch of the apples. And then now those apples, they grow into trees, and then there's more apples. And so I'm fed for longer because I didn't just think of what I want right now. So if you think of it in that terms, then it's categorically a wrong thing. But in the ultimate sense of things, it's still your company, and ultimately you still will be the person that benefits. And I think that again comes back to that whole treating yourself like a community. You know, there's the past you, the present you, and the future you. If you're only thinking about the present you, me, my, this is what I have to have right now, me, my, right, and you're prioritizing pleasure over purpose, you're simping for the moment, right? If that's what you're doing, then that's going to be problematic. So the whole, who you're doing it for, is it for you or is it for the company, or can that be the same thing? Or, you know, what dimension we're talking about? That's an interesting sort of discussion. It seems that sin is the real issue, right? In sin, in terms of a biasing towards gratification in the moment, and a blindness towards the devastation that does to your future, to the future you. So
Indeed. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good 2 episodes there. Patrick Bet-David is always good for a nice little list, even though he's no shots to him, but he can't be. I know he's not a low level guy, but he's a very, very much great for the masses. He's like a Flatlander type, you know. the way he puts his stuff. Again, I'm just you know, I don't even know why I'm saying this, because now it seems like I'm dissing him. But
right.
I did,
It's like you gave him, at best, you just gave him a backhanded compliment.
yeah,
At
like
best.
all that. Like I don't even know why I brought it up. I'm like, hey, he ain't no philosopher. why am I saying that? Why am I
That's
even
funny.
saying that? But it does have to do with the last point of, like, look, if somebody is has a company, do they need to hear this thing about you versus? It's like, come on, before you get to that point, you already have this dimensionality thing. How could you be a general and don't understand that picture? Like, how could you be any? But maybe that's just my crazy introverted thing where everything should be obvious. You know, like, isn't it obvious?
Wait, you don't know what's going on right now?
Like, I mean, can't you just sit and didn't you think? Haven't you thought about this? Like, what?
You know, I'm pretty sure now that the expression, if you don't know, you better ask somebody, I think an introvert came up with that.
Probably. I asked somebody and not me.
You're right. Oh, that's great. All right, man. Introverted humor. All right, man. So, you know what's happening? Sunday, case closed. That'll be on this channel, folks. Like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos. Support Black Male Media, support independent media. Super chats enabled. Super thanks for the Replay Gang, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word Thunder. If you like this content, then please support. Make sure you go over to Ike's channel and subscribe to his channel. Bang the bell, all that good stuff. Become a member on his channel. Also, make sure you watch the first episode of this series. This is a 2-part series. Make sure you see the first part over there. And we've been doing this for a while, so there's a lot of great episodes in the catalog. So go back and check them out. If you're into this kind of thing, please express that sentiment with money. All right. That is our time. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.